Forest Gene Bank, Time Capsule. The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank can be called the national Noah's Ark of our times. Thanks to this extraordinary institution, we can be more calm about species that are threatened with extinction. And yet the process of extinction on our planet is progressing very quickly. It is to be hoped that the conditions in the future will allow the plants and animals saved in this forest time capsule to be successfully reintroduced, to be able to please the eyes of people again, and to make the world more diverse again. The idea of the creation of gene banks in the world is related to the development of agriculture, and the preservation of plant genetic resources became important when the need to provide people with adequate food supplies was noticed. The first gene banks in the world began to emerge at the beginning of the 20th century in Europe. We currently have approximately 1,800 gene banks in the world, the largest of which are Svalbard in Norway, Fort Collins in the United States, and the Millennium Seed Bank in the United Kingdom. Protecting the genetic resources of crops, but also the biodiversity of wild flora.
Bank Światowy, pracujący w nim leśnicy.
The World Bank and the foresters working there became interested in the fact that biodiversity is disappearing, especially in forest ecosystems.
I zaproponowali pożyczkę.
And they offered a loan for a program that also involved designing the Kostrzyca Gene Bank.
Zaprojektowanie Banku Genów Kostrzycy.
But also, and I'd like to particularly emphasize it here, the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio and the adoption of the Convention on Diversity were of great importance, telling the world, naturalists and foresters, that various species of plants, animals, fungi and microorganisms were disappearing. On the opening day of this institution, I was the Director General of the State Forests. I think I felt an exceptional pride that we were able to meet these very high requirements of international standards when it comes to the use of international funds. It was a symbol, a step in the transformation of the Polish forestry, which was just marked in the mid-1990s. The Act on Forests of 1991 also helped here, because it set up forestry in a multifunctional form for the first time. And the economic function of timber production was not the most important. And it was a breakthrough, because in the past, forestry was monofunctional, mainly based on breeding, protection and logging. The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank was established in 1995 as a response to the ecological disaster in the Karkonosze and Izera mountains. It contributed to the devastation of approximately 17,000 hectares of coniferous forests in the middle and upper montane ecosystem. At that time, there were concerns that the coniferous stands in the mountainous areas of Europe would end, and that we would lose the rest of the genetic resources of the spruce and fir populations. Various types of damage caused by abiotic, biotic or anthropogenic factors have always accompanied the forest management. In recent decades, state forests have been hit by many such disasters. We can mention here, for example, the damage caused by hurricane winds that took place in the Pisz Forest District, in the Potrzebowice Forest District, or in 2017, the greatest disaster in the 100-year history of the state forests in the Kujawsko-Pomorskie forests. There were also damages from excessive drought in 2001 to 2018, lasting practically until today, but also from the flood in 1997, or from excessive flooding in 2011 to 2012, or damage caused by the spruce bark beetle outbreak in the Białowieża forest, in the Silesian Beskids, in the Żywiec Beskids, or recently in the Lower Silesian forests. In 2012, a hurricane, a tornado, passed through our area, which destroyed about 500 hectares of forests. This disaster made us realize that the recent climate phenomena are not individual and that we may experience it again. Bearing in mind these phenomena, we have already accumulated certain resources. The amount of seeds in the gene bank, we will continue to do so.
W banku genów. Będziemy to robić dalej.
Każda klęska żywiołowa to jest cios zarówno
Each natural disaster is a natural and economic blow to forest management. Natural disasters cannot be prevented, but the forest management can be conducted in such a way as to try to limit the losses caused by these disasters.
ograniczyć straty spowodowane klęskami żywiołowymi.
Polish foresters decided to preserve the genetic resources of the population of trees and shrubs that survived the ecological catastrophe and low temperatures, in order to be able to restore them in appropriate habitats in the future. Finally, Miłków, a village located at the foot of the Karkonosze Mountains, was chosen as the location for the gene bank. The choice of the state forests was determined, among others, by the proximity to the affected stands.
Lokalizacja była istotna z punktu widzenia przyszłego takiego
The location was important for the future international character of the gene bank, so it is the center of Europe, close to the western borders of our country.
naszego kraju.
The intention of the creators of the gene bank idea was to open up wider international cooperation as well.
Banku genów również szerszą współpracę międzynarodową.
The construction of the gene bank began in March 1994, and it took about 20 months.
Byliśmy dumni jako leśnicy z tego obiektu.
As foresters, we were proud of this facility. It contributed to the internationalization of the Polish forestry and the transformation process. It provided international contacts with specialists from other European and Western countries, because our transformation was supposed to involve departing from the socialist organizational patterns and starting to organize this forestry on the basis of free market conditions.
Warunków wolno-prawda-rynkowych.
The activity of the forest gene bank in Kostrzyca was quickly extended to the entire country, protecting all valuable populations of trees and shrubs in Poland.
Leśny Bank Genów Kostrzycy jest bardzo wysoko oceniany.
The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank is highly rated outside the forest environment. It collaborates with botanical gardens in Poland and abroad, and with other gene banks. It is a very significant, important, large research and application facility.
Placówka naukowa i użytkowa.
There are, of course, threats to the functioning of gene banks. We are not able to predict many catastrophic events, so when genetic resources are deposited in one gene bank, duplicate resources are created in others, so that if they are lost in a given place, they can survive. The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank also keeps some of its own resources in the Millennium Seed Bank in Great Britain.
Nasiennictwo leśne oraz
Forest seed production and the activity of gene banks have a very long history, both in the world and in Poland. The beginnings of forest seed production in Poland and in Europe date back to the period before the First World War. It was then that the foresters noticed that some trees and stands had better growth and quality characteristics.
i jakości.
It was the basis for the development of forest genetics and the basis for research in the field of comparing these traits between individuals from different locations and of different origins. The interwar period in Poland is the first stage of seed production development in the selection of seed regions. There were 8 of them then. The division of the country into seed regions is important because trees of given species from the north of Poland do not do well in the conditions in the south of our country. Initially, the regions were designated generally for the entire country without division into species. However, due to the development of science, we currently have a different situation, where the main forest-forming species have designated individual seed regions.
Powinniśmy dążyć
We should strive to maintain the widest possible genetic variability in situ, that is, in the place of occurrence, for the population of species for which it is possible.
Natomiast w odniesieniu do gatunków,
However, in the case of species that for various reasons have lost some, sometimes a very large part of their variability, we should strive to preserve in gene banks as much of their gene pool ex situ as possible.
ex situ w bankach genów.
Through activities aimed at the protection and conservation of genetic resources, the wide genetic variation, we hope that we'll be able to support natural evolutionary processes towards the adaptation of forestry species to changed environmental conditions in the future. As a consequence, it will contribute to maintaining the durability and resilience of forest ecosystems.
I odporności ekosystemów leśnych.
Team for Harvesting Organization and Resource Creation.
Gromadzimy materiał z takiej najbardziej
We
wyselekcjonowanej
collect material from the most selected seed base. These are the best stands and trees in Poland that have been excluded from a traditional economic use, and seed collection is the priority there.
Priorytetem jest właśnie zbiór nasion.
So far, the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank has secured seeds from about 80% of the most valuable stands in Poland. Cones, fruits, seeds or shoots are most often harvested from standing trees. For this purpose, employees of specialized companies use appropriate climbing equipment and techniques.
Po dostarczeniu, już dostawie i transporcie.
After the delivery and transport of the material, we prepare the cones, fruits and seeds for long-term storage.
Długoterminowego przechowywania.
A specialized technological line enables the proper preparation of seeds for storage. In the case of coniferous species, the process consists in cleaning the cones from needles, opening the cones in special drying cabinets, extracting seeds from the cones and removing wings, cleaning and drying the seeds. Since 2009, the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank has been harvesting seeds of protected and endangered species of herbaceous plants. The material is collected from the most valuable natural areas of our country, such as national parks, natural reserves, nature reserves or Natura 2000 sites. So far, we have managed to collect a total of about 200 species of different conservation status. Some of these species or sites no longer occur in nature, and their reproduction is possible only from seeds collected in the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank. Seed Evaluation Station.
To właśnie tutaj, na podstawie badania niewielkiej próbki,
It is here, based on the examination of a small sample, that we will find out whether the seeds meet the quality conditions for harvesting seeds in a stand, sowing or long-term storage.
W tym celu będziemy je
For this purpose, we will count them, weigh them, and X-ray them. Then we will look inside them and find out what their internal structure is. The seeds of spruce, pine or larch will be observed in the Jakobsen germinator. In contrast, dormant seeds such as beech, which germinate for more than 20 weeks, will be tested in dyeing trials.
Ponad 20 tygodni przetestujemy w próbach barwienia.
If the pre-harvest evaluation produces good results, then it can be assumed that fruit and seed harvesting will produce good results. Moreover, seed evaluation is an essential source of knowledge for nurserymen to rationally use the seeds in the nursery area. The seeds of 100 species of forest trees and shrubs are subject to obligatory assessment. Additionally, herbaceous seeds are assessed. Reproductive Material Storage Complex. One of the most important places in the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank are cold stores, where we store seeds obtained from the most valuable seed bases in Poland. At present, we have over 8,000 genetic resources in traditional storage, with a mass of about 3 tons of seeds. In order to safely store seeds, one should strive to reduce the intensity of their breathing as much as possible. Seeds of forest trees and shrubs and seeds of herbaceous plants are stored in tightly closed containers at a low temperature, down to -20 degrees Celsius. Containers protect against the ingress of moisture and inhibit gas exchange with the environment. The genetic resources collected in cold stores represent a total of 158 species, that is 55 species of trees and shrubs and 103 species of herbaceous plants. Research Team and Implementation Labs. Cryopreservation Laboratory.
To jest laboratorium, w którym
This is a laboratory where we use cryogenic temperatures to store seeds and seed fragments. Cryogenic temperatures are temperatures below 150 degrees Celsius, very low. Why exactly such? Because at these temperatures, seed physiology slows down. The entire metabolism of plant cells slows down considerably and therefore also slows down the aging processes of cells. After the seeds are stored at cryogenic temperatures, their quality is checked. After the seeds are thawed in a water bath, they are placed on special nutrients containing the necessary micro and macro elements, or on filter paper in a petri dish. The whole thing is placed in a phytotron, i.e. a room with controlled temperature and lighting conditions that reflect the natural conditions as accurately as possible. After a few days, the percentage of sprouted seeds is checked. In order to estimate the vitality parameters of orchid seeds, an assessment is made with the use of special dyes and a fluorescence microscope. Live seeds glow under the microscope with intense green light. The experience gained during the several years of the cryopreservation laboratory's operations shows that cryogenic temperatures are a very good means of preserving seed material for dozens or hundreds of years. According to a scientific publication, the storage time of seeds for some species may be up to 3,400 years. Currently, the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank stores seed material of about 200 plant species at cryogenic temperatures. DNA Analysis Laboratory.
To jest miejsce, gdzie wykorzystujemy
This is where we use the molecular biology tools to verify the origin of the seeds that are in the gene bank, to verify the origin of the strains in seed plantations and vegetative seed plantations, to perform genetic monitoring of protected species, for example the black grouse. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is a kind of bank of information about how the body should grow, how it should use the elements necessary for life, how it can reproduce, and how it can behave in the event of changing environmental conditions. In the case of suspicion of theft, fragments of wood from stumps after illegally cut trees and samples of wood found as a result of the work of the police or forest guard are most often compared. In this way, the illegal origin of the wood can be confirmed or ruled out with practically 100% certainty. Another performed task is DNA barcoding. It turns out that not only goods on store shelves have a barcode with all the information about their origin or composition. Also, we, humans, as well as plants, fungi, animals, and microorganisms, have such a barcode in their DNA. It is a site in DNA whose structure is specific to a particular species. In this way, having only a fragment of a plant or animal tissue, we are able to verify the species it comes from. Biopreparation Production Team. In our biopreparation production team, we produce mycorrhizal vaccine from the very beginning to the very end, providing customers with a ready-made product. Since all forest tree species need their own fungal partner to establish mycorrhiza, it is important to provide them with mycorrhizal fungi appropriate for a given species already at the stage of planting such seedlings. The phenomenon of mycorrhiza, which is the basis of the entire production and application of the biopreparation, is common in nature. It is a form of coexistence of a fungus with vascular plants. Thanks to the mycorrhiza, the plant takes more nutrients from the soil and is protected against more harmful pathogenic fungi, while the fungus uses glucose, a product of photosynthesis. This phenomenon has a positive effect on the growth and development of seedlings of coniferous and deciduous trees.
Mówiąc tereny zdegradowane, mam na myśli takie...
By brownfields, I mean areas that are free from microorganisms. These are, for example, post-industrial areas such as mine heaps, training grounds, fire sites, post-agricultural lands, as well as areas where various root pathogens previously existed.
Różne patogeny korzeniowe. Są to również tereny...
These are also areas along existing or newly constructed highways and expressways. These soils are characterized by the fact that they are devoid of microorganisms that can create mycorrhiza with trees. As a result, trees growing in an environment without mycorrhiza show worse development, more often get sick and even die. Every year, the biopreparation production team produces an average of 20 cubic meters of biopreparation for forest districts from all over the country. This amount is sufficient for the mycorrhization of approximately 4.5 million forest tree seedlings in container nurseries. Position for nature and forest education.
Działalność Leśnego Banku Genów Kostrzyca.
The activity of the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank, its mission, i.e. the protection of the forest biodiversity of our country's forests, arouses curiosity. Therefore, our educational offer, addressed to all age groups, is very popular.
Cieszy się dużym zainteresowaniem. Zależy nam głównie na tym, by zainteresować przyrodą.
We mainly want to arouse interest in nature, so we organize field classes that activate students, and we also invite you to participate in art, photography and nature competitions.
I przyrodniczych.
The classes are attended by preschool children, primary and secondary school students, university students, and other people interested in the activities of the unit. Classes are conducted in the seminar room in the form of a workshop and in the arboretum. Participation in organized forms of education requires prior agreement. On the other hand, the Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank Arboretum is open to visitors free of charge all year round. The arboretum around the Forest Gene Bank is a living part of it. On an area of over 15 hectares, we have accumulated over 5,000 plants and over 700 species. They are not only representatives of the Polish flora, but they represent 4 continents: Europe, Asia, Africa and America. And in these conditions, at the foot of the Karkonosze Mountains, in a very picturesque place, we observe the acclimatization of these plants. We create conservative collections. We established 2 archives of clones of the Polish protected trees, common yew and the wild service tree. The Arboretum is a great place for learning about nature, for education and also for recreation. We invite everyone to our garden. The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank itself is very interesting for visitors, regardless of age. Compared to a time capsule, it stimulates the imagination and invariably attracts children, adolescents and adults alike.
Leśny Bank Genów Kostrzyca.
The Kostrzyca Forest Gene Bank is a modern, innovative facility that implements new technologies and solutions for the protection of our country's forest genetic resources. We are a role model for countries both in Europe and for forestry around the world.
Jak i dla leśnictwa na całym świecie.